Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there. We are excited another week of meeting another boss, but this boss is all the way up on the North Shore. I think might call it the gateway of the North Shore, Waimea Valley, and Mr. Richard Pezzulo is the executive director of Hi'ipaka LLC in Haleiwa, which is the title holder and is the managing, I think, direction and force to make sure that the Waimea Valley is protected and kept for its wonderful value to Hawaii. So we're excited to have Mr. Pezzulo on. Richard, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, David. Glad to be here.
Sure. So listen, on Hawaii Boss, we come up to you and we're going to the boss's office to find out, how things really get done. So again, we've been in Hawaii. I've been in Hawaii 8 years. I'm still a visitor, feel like, and I'm learning more and more each day. Your experience in Hawaii goes way back. When did you first touch Hawaiian ground?
Sure, I got here in 2001.
Okay.
About 20 years ago. So.
Yeah. What brought you? What was your initial sort of impetus to arrive at Hawaii?
Sure. Well, I had spent about 15 years in the South Pacific.
Okay.
I originally went to Solomon Islands as a Peace Corps volunteer. Ended up marrying somebody from there. Took her back to my home in Connecticut, and we both didn't quite fit in.
Well, after that many years away, going back to the snow is a real tough one to bite.
Well, I was only there a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, we went back to the Solomons. I actually went back to work for a company that was having some financial problems. The Development Bank brought me back there. Development Bank of the Solomon Islands brought me back there to try and salvage the company. And I ended up living there for about 10 years, mostly working for the United Nations.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to Papua New Guinea for another 4 years.
Uh-huh.
So, I spent quite a bit of time in the South Pacific, and Hawaii is, part of the South Pacific. So
right,
pretty comfortable here.
Yeah, it does have its advantages. Yeah, I noticed your MBA from Holy Cross from Australia. So again, that you've been living on that side of the earth for a while. This is your East Coast. This is the furthest east you go now. It sounds like maybe Hawaii is. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I noticed also you were Army, a couple years, Würzburg, and then the Peace Corps. What, how does that work?
Yeah, well, I actually got drafted into the Army.
Okay.
I had the last draft number they called for Vietnam.
The very last?
The very last number.
Oh, now that's an infamous ticket there.
I mean, I wasn't the only one who had that number, but whoever was born on July 20th in 52 was, I had that number. So I got drafted. I did my 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Got out and used the GI Bill to get my degree from the University of Connecticut. And I just felt I should give back a little. I know many of us, especially my generation, we were raised to feel that we should provide some service. We should serve. So, I figured, okay, join the Peace Corps, and I was supposed to go to Kenya.
Uh-huh.
But last minute, they said they overbooked the program. They're looking for volunteers. So I volunteered, and they ended up sending me to the Solomon Islands, where my dad had fought during World War II, because at Guadalcanal.
Wow.
He thought it was great I was going there. He said it was a really nice place, and I think
Did you? It was his assessment correct?
Oh yeah, beautiful place, really nice people.
Well, that's quite a full circle, when family, you touch ground that your father who fought in the war had been to, and there's some potential reminiscing and sort of reflecting on the whole world. Again, you said a lot of people do, they feel like your generation want to give back, but not everybody joins the Peace Corps and jumps across over the other half the world. So you must have had this sort of thing for adventure. What did the Army instill that, or was that something familial, or just you?
No, I think it was being in the Army, going to Germany, living there for, about 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
After served my 2-year tour. And, that kind of gave me a little bit of a bug. While I was there, I did a lot of traveling. I went to, many European countries. Actually did a 30-day trip around Europe with some friends. We bought a car that almost
Sure.
just the whole trip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that kind of gave me that bug to see and experience, other parts of the world. And it was a really good experience. I really have to say. I encourage, young people to join not only the Peace Corps, but having worked for the United Nations, there's also the United Nations Volunteer Program,
Mm-hmm.
which if you're American, you actually get sponsored by the Peace Corps. And, it's a great, I mean, of course, in today's world, it's probably a little bit more
Yeah, a little
dangerous.
bit. Yeah, a little risky. It's a real. I guess you have to feel it deep to want to go join the Peace Corps right now.
Yeah, so, and,
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, and then what about it? This international, and again, I think the folks from Hawaii who are coming up here, going and seeing the world. That's a lot of what they do after they graduate high school. But sometimes they come back to Hawaii. Sometimes they don't. But what do you think it is when folks are going out into these different places, and what does it provide if you live internationally for someone's perspective?
oh yeah, well, I mean, I think it gives you a perspective on how people live. I mean, until I left the United States and I went to Germany, which of course is a developed country, and they live quite comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Solomon Islands. I mean, it was an eye opener. I mean,
Thatched roof huts and everything.
my Peace Corps training, we spent 4 weeks in a village in the middle of Guadalcanal. Of course, no running water, no electricity. And actually, it just so happened to be, I don't know why the Peace Corps sent us there, but we were the first group to actually do what they called the village stay. And they sent us to this village that followed this cult leader that, and it was actually in a way good, because the whole premise of the cult was preserving traditions and culture.
Sure.
So everybody wore traditional clothes in the village.
Uh-huh.
All the women just wore the grass skirt, and the men wore what they call cabalatos, or halos, would be called here. And I mean, you swam, you went out in the river to take your bath. I mean, and I don't want to tell you about toilet facilities.
Right.
There were none. So I mean,
you went back in time.
I certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you. But it was a really good experience. People were happy. They really didn't have much at all, but they were some of the happiest people I ever met in my life.
And so, yeah, that's what I think as we all, in the Army, I went over to Somalia, the same sort of experience. Your whole mindset shifts, but for that long, 18 months, I think by the end of that, maybe they've adopted you in by that time. How was that, being accepted into that culture?
I mean, and that was the thing, it was very, very accepting people. The actual training was 4 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but we became very close and, stayed in touch. And of course, haven't as much as I did earlier, but,
Sure.
but I went back and worked there. I was there for 9 years working and stayed in touch. But with my work, I was all over the country
Mm-hmm.
helping small businesses.
Right.
People very, very appreciative. I mean, they just the fact that you showed up there to help them,
Right.
a lot to them.
Yeah, and if they could get pencils to make a ledger and everything, it's I mean, it was as simple as that. I imagine, how do you organize your day and your affairs, but those type of things that helps to create those micro economies and to realize too, I guess how valuable those types of experiences are. And so you bring that. You're not from here. I don't think Pezzulo is a Hawaiian name, right? Well, Connecticut hometown. So you being involved in such a way, and particularly in Hawaiian affairs, in the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, that's a unique, I think, position for someone who's, I would say, not to make it negative sounding, but an outsider of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if that experience that you've had, traveling the world and things, what part of what you brought to the table that allowed you to sort of understand and be a supportive role and be accepted into those types of organizations, particularly even also in Hi'ipaka today. I'm sure the similar sort of relationships, but tell us how that works for you.
Yeah, I think the main thing is with all my travels, I really learned, and there was already probably some of this in me, through my upbringing, but it was really learning how to respect different cultures, right? Being able to understand and work with people, different cultures, different ideas. One of the things I tell people is when you made an appointment with somebody, you'd say, okay, let's meet tomorrow at 3:00.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, for me, being from, Western world or Connecticut or United States, it was 3:00 the next day. But for them, it was like, okay, anytime after 3:00 tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see about how, if things are going right, we'll get together. If I see you after that, it might be.
Could be the next day,
Right.
next week.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's the other thing is patience and understanding. So I think, really learning how to respect different cultures, different values, different beliefs, and also having patience really helped. I was really immersed in another culture. I mean, I don't think too many people had gone through what I did when me and the other 6 Peace Corps volunteers went into that village.
Right.
We lived, like you said, we went back in time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember an anthropology professor who, his claim to fame was that he had, some small tribe in Africa. He spent, years and years with them, and, all their different, rituals. You can't bring in, all of a sudden English common law and, start, having a board meeting, how they conduct their business is, hierarchical and all those things that, you may not understand until you have that. You have to have that patience to listen.
Yeah, and a good example is, when I was in the Peace Corps, our focus, the country had just received independence. And the British were transitioning out and trying to support the government, the local, Solomon Island government to take over. So for business, it was focusing on developing trade stores. So I would travel around a couple of different provinces with some of the Solomon Island business advisors, and we would do training. We'd help get these little retail stores, little trade stores set up. And, you'd help them set up. They'd be really successful. You'd stop by. They're doing great. Next time you come by, it's closed.
Mm-hmm.
Store. And you go, what happened? And they go, well, my father died, and, we used all the money, all the food and everything for the funeral.
Right.
Or, I decided I wanted to focus on growing whatever, my
Mm-hmm.
garden or building my house, so
Right.
It was like, and then you'd come back 6 months later and the store would be up and running again.
Uh-huh.
And it's...
Yeah, so the concept of time and what, people, where some people would expect, this business needs to keep going, because we have each month X amount of dollars, but they're saying, no, the value for me and my presence on this earth right now is not into this store, but rather, I'm needed in other places, and the culture is accepting of that.
Exactly.
Right. So again, I think we begin to impose, or people who try to do business in Hawaii may impose sort of their perception of what business reality is, and they get caught up in that, and sometimes that can cause problems for folks who are trying to do business in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So you have to have some folks that have that listening ear that can translate, because it's not just it's language, it's relationships, it's that patience in those relationships that Does the payoff in the long run. So tell us about your current role, which is very interesting to me. I've seen some of the work that's happening up there. It's a beautiful Waimea Valley. Keeping all of that going now, almost 10 years there as the executive director. Tell us what I did look at some footage back in 2013 that you'd been there a year and you'd painted everything and things have been turned around, and it was so it's been maybe a wonderful growth since then. But tell us about how this pandemic may have impacted you and how you have sort of had to position and how things are going now for you.
Yeah, well, of course, like all businesses, the pandemic really did impact our operations. And, when the governor announced the first closure, I sat down with all my managers and we immediately revised our strategy. And of course, we looked at everything from furloughs. We furloughed most of our staff. We kept on skeleton crew of gardeners, facilities, staff. And of course, we kept a good management team going. And our revised strategy really focused on trying to target more. We always target Kamahina in the military, but we really tried to even, well, obviously the visitors weren't coming, so but we did a number of things, like we discounted admissions, we discounted our annual passes, we offered corporate passes, which the chamber helped us get the word out about those, organization corporate passes. We also had we offered ways to adopt a garden or dedicate a garden, dedicate a bench, made out of wood from the valley. We had a tree conservation program where for $30 we plant a tree in our back acreage, 1,500 acres back there. So, we did all these things, plus we really cut back on our expenditures. I basically improved every single expense, and, everybody worked really hard at trying to use what we already had. And, we just cut our expenses. Of course, we went after PPP loans, which we managed to get.
Congratulations,
and, yeah, and then, we obviously had to use some of our reserves. And luckily, in the good times, we put money away. And we put it away because, we're obviously prone to floods and hurricanes and rock slides. So we had money set aside for emergencies. Never thought an emergency was going to be a pandemic, but we had the funds, so we used some of our reserves. And then by the end of the year, by October 15th, they started the Safe Travels program, and we started to see a good uptick in numbers. So November and December turned out to be pretty good for us.
Of 20 and 20?
Of 2020.
Yeah.
We saw this trend, and then of course, all the projections by DBET and HTA seem to be very optimistic. And 2021, so 2020 was the worst year we ever had.
Sure.
Even before I got here, Waimea Valley was losing about $1 million a year. Now during the pandemic, we lost $2 million.
Yeah. That's tough ground to make up.
Yeah. But 2021 is our best year ever.
It's a roaring comeback, yeah.
So we've more than made up for our losses last year, and we are in a really good place right now. We brought all our staff back by April this year with the first, and we're doing really, really well now. And of course, we're being very careful about COVID. Luckily, fortunately, we're outdoor activity, so that's part of the reason why we get a lot of visitors. It's outdoor, so and it's like I say, we went from the worst year to the best year, so quite a swing.
Well, yeah, 2020, the world stopped in Hawaii. I moved over here in March from the Big Island of that year, and it was actually the day before it was complete lockdown. Waikiki was a ghost town, and it was very sort of disconcerting. But here we are. We didn't think it would be take this long. I think everyone's thankful. But there was a lot of you may be able to tell us what you can attribute it to, all that maybe pent up sort of everybody, these vacations that no one was able to take, and so they've been, rushing back here. I think with that pass, or with the negative testing and the different, things, what other things you think might be contributing to that great increase?
Yeah, I think it was the pent up demand, people just really anxious to get out and, take a trip, but also I think there was a lot of money that flowed into the, individuals' bank accounts,
Sure.
the what do you call it, relief checks or
Sure.
relief checks, and then there was the child care. Because I tell you, we did notice almost a very different clientele.
Right.
People that we might not normally see in large
Right.
numbers. So I think there was a lot of money out there, and people just wanted to get away. They're just tired of staying home and not doing anything, and we're a better place, And plus, I think the other thing is probably our numbers were being reported, to be very low.
Right.
Even
So it's an
though,
incentive for folks to come.
yeah, even though we think they're really high, if you
Mm-hmm.
compare them to some of these other states, these people who were coming from, they were like, "You got to be kidding!
Right. Yeah.
Let's go to Hawaii."
It is, yeah. So that's good, and the international things are just now beginning. It appears to be coming online, and again, maybe people didn't really know, what it is, that Waimea Valley is. As you said, there's some of these increased activities, but if someone who's came in from Mars and said, what is Waimea Valley and why should I visit there? What kind of, or what draws people there? What are some of the draws?
Well, of course, we're a very special place. We're a significant, cultural site that has, well, I don't know, 700 years of history here. And that's what we try to explain to people first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of our main objectives, is to get people who come here to better understand not only the cultural significance of the valley, but Hawaii and Hawaiian history, and so we have quite a few cultural sites that people can actually visit and learn about. We have artisans here who interact with our guests, demonstrate, talk to them about their particular practice or art form. And then, of course, we have a world-class botanical garden that was developed around these cultural sites.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have a waterfall at the end of, it's about a mile. We tell people 3/4 of a mile.
Uh-huh.
My Apple Watch says it's a mile.
Well, yeah. You don't want to, at 3/4 of a mile, everybody can do a mile.
Yeah.
Ooh, now we're asking.
You hit the mile. So, at the end of the walk, there's a waterfall. So most people come here, they really appreciate the beauty of the place, the feeling. There's a very strong spiritual feeling here because of the cultural sites and the cultural significance.
Sure. So they can learn. There's also great, again, a botanical garden, great place to take pictures. I think there's some spaces there for you to be able to you host weddings or different other activities or large group activities, which is, again, outdoor venues is something that are still, sought after in the middle of this the pandemic. And so
we also have a great snack bar and really good food here.
Well, as long as it's got a loco moco or some fresh poke over there, we're all right.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, and so again, how can people get involved? I notice there's a lot of volunteer activities. Are the folks that are leading folks around on tours and things, are they volunteers? Are they employees? Tell us how how we can get engaged, the people who live here and want to be a part of what you're doing.
Sure. We actually, most of the tours are conducted by our staff, our employees, but we have a volunteer coordinator, full-time volunteer coordinator, who organizes activities both in the lower valley, that's where the botanical gardens are. That's about 300 acres. And, there's different jobs or tasks that volunteers can do. Sometimes they'll come in. Yesterday we had a group from the Coast Guard. They came in and they helped remove invasive vines from our gardens, So sometimes it's invasive plant removal, weeding, sometimes, raking, some cleaning signs. And then we also ask people, we're also looking for docents if they want to conduct tours.
Mm-hmm.
Are we interested in a particular botanical area, cultural area? And we also take people up into our back acres. As I said earlier, we have about 1,500 acres. All that we're restoring as native forest. And we fenced in, I think about 40, 50 acres to keep the pigs out. But
sure,
we're slowly reforesting all those areas. So a couple times a month, we organize groups to go up to the back acres. And they do everything from prepping the ground for planting, weeding, planting, watering, to help us with reforestation. But we also have an artisan program.
Okay.
Artisan program, we're looking for cultural practitioners, cultural artisans who are interested in demonstrating, doing hands-on activities, teaching our visitors about Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian art, practices. And those individuals we pay, they're independent contractors, so they just have to have their insurance and general excise tax, but they get paid $30 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we also encourage botanical tour guides. If there's somebody who really is knowledgeable about a garden or type of plant, same thing. We look at bringing them in.
Because that's really what it's about. We're trying to. It's a going concern. We have to generate revenue in order to make sure that we do the things you need to do, like the reforestation, and make sure folks are paid and all the things are legal, and that we're doing what we need to do. But this also an education, and I think there's this idea that many people are touring and touristing in order to find out more about where they're going. How do you get the message out? What is the way that you find folks can find out about Waimea Valley?
Yeah, of course, social media is probably number one.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually moved away from a lot of the print ads.
Sure.
Because they don't seem to be as effective as they used to be. We're still in some, but a lot of social media, a lot of digital advertising. A lot of small, videos through social media. Plus, we're in all the hotels on their TVs and different platforms in the hotels. But social media is probably our biggest means of getting messages out to our guests, our potential guests. And we do surveys. We have Wi-Fi in the valley, believe it or not. Most of the time. But
that's anywhere, I think.
But as they leave, we ask them to complete actually what happens is to get on the Wi-Fi, they have to give us their email address. So we send them automatically a survey.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like most people, it's social media. That's how they found us. Or of course, the other way is word of mouth, which is good. And then the third one is they're driving by and they see our sign.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top three.
Wow. Now, are you also engaged with it's an educational venture? Are the schools coming up and seeing what's here and available, or is that something that will happen in the past, or how do you again engage those folks that are locally here?
Yeah, we prior to the pandemic, we were we'd have about 6,000 students a year come through.
Mm-hmm.
First pandemic, January, February, March, we had maybe 1,000,
Sure.
And then we're starting to see the schools come back. We're starting to get bookings. So we think this coming year, 2022, I don't think we're going to see the 6,000, but I think we'll see, a good number. And, I think a lot of the schools, they're still a little cautious about traveling, but we've had a number of schools come through this year already.
Right. I think the teachers too and the kids are excited to get out and it's already tough enough. They someplace. Oh, hey, we're a field trip. That's a what's that? I don't even remember what that is. Right. So
Yeah.
So it's good for them to get out now. What is the relationship with Waimea Valley also to the beach there? It seems like it's contiguous. It's all part of how does that work?
It is. I mean, it's owned by the city, but you can't separate it geographically. And we have a good relationship with the Aikau family.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course, the Eddie Aikau surf events.
Sure, which is on this year, I hear.
I don't know.
I heard. Well, they had a ceremony. I thought. They
do the ceremony every year.
Okay, good.
And
okay.
We support the ceremony. This year, usually we're at the ceremony. This year they kept it really low key. We provided chairs, tables, and
Sure.
Our staff helped out, but normally we're a much bigger part. But because of COVID, they kept it really small and just to the competitors. So it'd be nice if it does go ahead, because we sell parking if it does.
Right. And that's a big, the surf is a big draw, up there, the surfing, but, because the Triple Crown wasn't held last year and different things. So it's glad it's coming back around, but folks are still, pretty anxious and things. But again, Waimea Valley, it feels like it's the gateway to the North Shore, at least because that's where the traffic starts stopping up right there.
Well, actually, it's at Laniakea where the turtles are. That's where the bottleneck is.
Right, yeah, that big, it's got parking on both sides and everyone's going which way and people crossing the road. And
yeah.
Well, that's some of the challenges that go along with, being in paradise and having this wonderful space up there. Again, sir, it's been an honor to speak with you and hopefully that as things continue to turn the corner here, that more and more folks are able to find out about Waimea Valley, which is at waimeavalley.net, and they can find out more, and then also sign up for a newsletter and find out really what, how you can get engaged. I just signed up. It was real easy. And so I think that's helpful. The website's very helpful to find out more things. And so again, it was very good to meet with you. But before we go, a little bit more, about you, how we call it kind of a pauhana sort of, we finish up a little bit. And so when you're not engaged in Waimea Valley, where do you find yourself?
Home, working around the house.
Yeah, that never goes away.
Yeah.
But that's some of the joys of being able to work and live in Hawaii, is that you can, do you live up on the North Shore? Do you have to go into town, or how?
No, I live in Mililani, so it's a little bit of a drive, but nice drive. So
Just down the road, yeah. My brother, who just got out of the Army, retired, was in Schofield Barracks up there. So, nice nice area. But so then also, if you've got, tell us a little bit about the food that you can get up there at your place. So do you do, like, does it, do they sponsor? Can they host the food, or is it just at the little cafe, or how do they?
No, it's we actually contracted out the food services about a year ago.
Okay.
A little bit over a year, July in 2020. And before that, we were running the snack bar, but we had an exclusive caterer, Kainui Kitchen.
Okay.
It's a catering company. And, they did such a good job with the catering. They have a really good reputation on the North Shore.
Uh-huh.
That I decided, get out of the food service business. It's a tough one. So
yeah. staffing and it's tough enough.
I did it at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he took over. Kenui Kitchen's taken over, and he redesigned the snack bar. He's really improved the menu there. He offers a lot of good food items. He's got a proper coffee shop with the
Sure.
machine and the proper coffee equipment. He's got a full bar on one side, and he also offers catering for special events, so weddings,
Sure.
parties. He does a really good job, and like I say, he's got a really good reputation here on the North Shore.
That's a rare gem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Congratulations, Adon. Again, hopefully many more folks visiting and many more bellies fed as they learn about the importance and the history of Waimea Valley. Until next time, sir, aloha.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.